way, Jose.
Red I got you. Come subscribe, like. Come subscribe, like. Come subscribe, like. Come subscribe.
No way.
Okay, now we're at the start of part 2. Let's begin. So basically the beginning is just, the announcer guy just giving the ins and outs of what the Sekai Tekai is going to consist of. You have Robbie being confused that his girlfriend just joined the enemy team, even though he did absolutely nothing to stop it. Like, why didn't he talk to her, text her? Like, how does he not know that she joined? Like, did she just do this, secretly, didn't talk to him, didn't, did he contact her whatsoever? I don't even remember at this point, because, you didn't go over her house or, anything? You didn't, run after her, when she, ran off or anything like that? You didn't try to talk to her at all afterwards? After your fight? It's ridiculous. And it's understandable why Tori would want to fight, and try to get her anger out and try to just mourn her mother her own way. The problem is she's doing it through Kreese in order to win the Sekai Tekai. When Cobra Kai is part of the reason why she's in this situation to begin with. She felt abandoned by Kreese when he was in prison. So it just doesn't make sense that she would just go back to Kreese after all of that, especially when Kim also was technically abusing her, or letting her abuse herself technically, by damn near breaking her hand on the stone. So afterwards, we get some sweet shots of Barcelona, some of the food, some of the culture and stuff like that. And honestly, it looks really beautiful, and I'd love to visit that someday. You got Johnny and Daniel continuing their BS, and then you got Robbie sulking over Tori, and then, obviously Quan's trying to aura farm, which, he has none. Okay, maybe he has a little bit, just a tiny bit. Then again, by episode 10, he loses all of it, so, yeah. It's I know how this ends, so, I'm kind of conflicted. Then there's the scene where Tori's talking to Kreese and Kim in the hotel room, and honestly, just I just kind of have to recant what I said earlier. It's why Cobra Kai again? This is the same chick that, again, broke your hand, and then Kreese is Kreese. You already felt betrayed by him. He's already a piece of crap, and he revealed that already. It's so interesting how the last person Johnny fights in the entire series, and basically just is the reason that, everything is happening, in terms of, the main threat is the Iron Dragons, and we know that, in the future. And it's Axel just gets defeated, and then the last fight of the entire series is Wolf. And he gets introduced because he's fighting with Johnny over a steak. I love this show. And then we get the introduction of Zara, and, she's messing with Tori, talking about, oh, Robbie's cute, I'm trying to talk to him. And Tori's just not having it. She's like, I'm just fed up with life in general. You could just have him. No, I'm just playing. It's more so Zara's actually, she starts being interested in Robbie because of that fact. And what makes her interesting is she's not played off to be sympathetic necessarily, not like Axel, which, I have issues with the whole Axel, Sam, and Miguel love triangle, if you want to call it that. I already made a video about that. Again, you can go watch that if you want to. And I already made a video also about the whole Zara, Tori, Robbie love triangle as well, because I also consider that a love triangle. So I already made a video about that. You can watch that as well. But basically, I think that Zara is more interesting only because I don't have to feel bad for her. She's just kind of I don't want to say evil, but she's an antagonist, and she's entertaining at the very least. Also, I feel she does more damage to their relationship than what Sam, or than Axel does to Sam and Miguel's relationship. The main scenes involving Johnny, Daniel, and Kreese, and also Chosen, are basically just Daniel trying to find out more information about Mr. Miyagi, after, finding out that he was in the Sekai Tekai, which is important. And then you have, Chosen showing up drunk and just, just wreaking havoc, just causing a ruckus and making Miyagi-Do honestly look bad. So yeah, this is not good for their dojo. And Johnny was also beefing with Kreese even before this and he was, holding the knife as well. Kreese was holding the knife, which is going to be very important later on. The scenes with Quan and Robbie basically just established that they're going to be rivals instead of, like, for example, Quan and Miguel, which honestly, I find this way more interesting than if he was like Miguel's rival or anything like that. Cause again, I feel like Robbie and Quan like bounce off each other in terms of like personality wise, like a lot better. And it's just honestly, it's more intriguing for some reason. I think it's the idea that Robbie used to be in Quan's shoes, used to be top dog, used to be, you know, the Cobra Kai student, who also even taught other students in the dojo some Miyagi-Do, so he tried to make them stronger. Like, he was top dog at some point. So seeing the perspective of like being a Miyagi-Do student, have to go against one of the top Cobra Kai students is very interesting. And it's like Robbie has been really fighting his demons, like, when it comes to Cobra Kai, because at first he had to go up against Miguel. That was his main rival, and he was Cobra Kai, and he saw him on the same level as he sees Quan, because he was just pure evil at that point. But then, you know, obviously, you know, stuff changes, and like their rivalry progresses up until a point where they end up fighting for the last time, and they kind of just like reconcile everything. Even before that, like, Robbie was starting to feel bad a little bit because of the fact that he kicked him off the railing. But then, you know, because of the Cobra Kai brainwashing, he became the thing that he hated. And now he's brought himself back to the point where he is on the good side again. And he's seeing, you know, basically what he used to be. Then they do like a dick measuring contest, and you know, Quan obviously wins because he has the best kicks in the entire show, basically, in terms of like combat and stuff like that. Also, he has some of the best combat speed. And it's really strange that they end up betting their rooms on this whole like kicking competition. Like, I would never do that. If I was in Barcelona, I'm chilling. Like, I am not gonna sit here and mess up my like comfortability in like a foreign like place. I'm not gonna lie. Now, we have two interesting scenes near the aquarium tunnel thing. And they both involve Tori. Now, one actually feels very heartfelt. It feels very warm. It feels very, you know, just great, and just like, you know, I think it's good for the series. And the other pisses me the hell off. Now, I'm gonna just get it over with. I'm gonna just say the one that comes first. Robbie, what the hell? What the hell? This is what I'm talking about. Robbie's a shitty boyfriend. Like, how do you hear your girlfriend say that, yeah, the guy who I used to do karate for, the guy who trained me, who's also a war criminal, yeah, he's back, and he low-key wants me to join. He's also a fugitive too. He wants me to join his dojo. Should I do it? And then you just kind of just like, I don't know. Like, god damn, Robbie. Like, I wish they didn't introduce that into like the series. Like, they didn't like write that in, because like it makes Robbie look really stupid and just like a really, I don't want to say not just a bad boyfriend, but a bad person. Now, obviously, I don't want to say that about Robbie, because, you know, there have been plenty of seasons where, you know, we've seen his character develop, you know, grow, and we've seen him, you know, have a very heartfelt moments with many characters, especially Tori. Like, they had a great relationship up to this point. And it's just like, I just don't like how this season is writing him. I don't think overall he's bad. Just in this season, he's not great. Like, part 1 and 2 just don't do him justice, honestly. Besides, like, maybe like, we'll get to it. The last thing I want to say about Robbie, honestly, when it comes to this episode, is just like, everyone knows he's a terrible boyfriend. Like, they even have this whole like mini argument about it in this episode, like before they actually fight the Iron Dragons. Like, everyone knows, like, he's just being a shitty character in this season. And then he later on crashes out on Tori. It's like, bro, you are part of the problem. Like, what are you talking about? Why are you trying to sit there and act as if you're like inherently better? And then the next sequence, or a couple sequences afterwards, is the tournament. And the tournament starts, and basically everyone's duking it out. You got Tori, Sam, Miguel, Hawk, Robbie, you know, Dimitri, everyone just duking it out. And Quan as well. And obviously Miguel's like doing, you know, the best because he's Miguel. And of course Dimitri gets one shot because he's just the greatest character in the show. Honestly, Devin isn't much better. She gets bodied very quickly as well by Tori. Packed the hell up. Honestly, I feel like Sam did okay, honestly. You would think, like, she would be one of the first ones to go down, but, like, nah. And, of course, Robbie had to go down because he was looking at goddamn Tori. And then Cobra Kai wins, and that's when the Iron Dragons show up, and then I'm kind of surprised, I'm kind of intrigued, like, who are they, and how powerful are they? Because all their teammates just kneeled completely, they just bent the knee, and then Axel and Zara just cooked, and then we got to see just how overpowered they actually are, and they sweeped Cobra Kai. And then it's revealed that Wolf is actually going to be the main villain of the entire series. At least Johnny's villain. And, Axel and Zara are going to be the main villains for Miguel and Tori. Now, basically, the beginning of this episode is just everyone getting absolutely obliterated. This is episode 7. Now, it just shows that basically everyone's off their game, and then, they have a little, talk about it afterwards. They kind of huddle up, if you will. In the sense that he's just talk to the students and just basic stuff, basic training. They kind of argue a little bit. Kreese is starting stuff with Daniel, and Zara is starting stuff with Sam and Devin, and basically the rivalries are being solidified. And this is kind of what I'm talking about when it comes to Robbie. Like, the next scene, or the next couple scenes, is like literally Robbie getting crucified by Dimitri and Hawk. And Miguel's just kind of there, just kind of like, not necessarily like he's kind of thinking the same thing. He's kind of thinking like, Robbie's being trashed right now. And Miguel's obviously doing the best out of anyone. Everyone else is doing badly. So I guess in a technical sense, I do think it's a little bit hypocritical that Dimitri and Hawk are talking shit when they are doing just as bad as Robbie, in some of these fights. Now, basically, Daniel's whole part in this episode is just trying to find more information about Mr. Miyagi, and then he ends up getting, sent on this wild goose chase, and then he gets, knocked out and locked up in a cage by one of Kreese's men, his henchman, his goon. And I'm just thinking to myself, man, I just wish, man, Kreese is one petty mother freaker. Like, it's like, I wish Daniel had some way to apprehend the individual that was like trying to keep him in the dog cage, so that he could just like show him to the authorities or like the people who work at the tournament, so that they could just disqualify Cobra Kai. Because it's like the evidence is right on his arm. Like, it would be so easy to just get them all disqualified. But obviously there's no like real evidence, and the guy probably could just run away or whatever. So it's just it's whatever. Now, obviously, he's about to beat the hell out of Kreese, but he can't because it looks bad on him, technically. And again, he doesn't have any real evidence against him, so we can't really do much about that. And, Sam sees him about to beat the hell out of Kreese, so he has to stop, and he just reassures her that, everything's fine, and he doesn't want to destroy her focus, and he wants her to focus on the tournament, so he doesn't really inform her on everything that literally just happened. Now, basically, Johnny, this whole episode is, dealing with Wolf, and, they kind of start their little beef, and they're arguing for a little bit. And, basically, afterwards, he's trying to actually just teach all the students to, lock in and actually try to learn, his version of, well, it's not even Miyagi-Do, it's just Cobra Kai, basically, but just slapping Miyagi-Do's name on it. He's trying to get them to use more offense, and it's just not working for them. And even though obviously, for example, Sam and like Dimitri and stuff like that shouldn't really be, even with Robbie, I feel like he should be using more so Miyagi-Do than Cobra Kai, even though they could be using a mixture of it, because Hawk can use both. I do think that, fundamentally they would just lose and, keep losing regardless of what style they use, because like they're just not focused enough. Now, the one scene in this season that I can actually stand Devin is when she's talking to Johnny, and she basically confesses the fact that she screwed over Kenny, and she was the one who put the laxatives in his drink. And I'm glad she actually confessed it and actually feels bad. It makes me hate her a little bit less. But at the end of the day, well, I don't hate her. She just frustrates me. But at the end of the day, I think Johnny handled that the most mature way he possibly could. And I really like that about his character. Like, he's growing. You could see it clearly. Like, I feel like the older version of him would have, like, snapped on her or something of that nature, or probably kicked her off the team instantly. But this version, like, he actually, like, was trying to help her. Like, and he didn't want her to mentally, like, not be in the right headspace to compete. Like, he's definitely using a little bit of Miyagi-Do, which is basically what Daniel told him to do. Sometimes in life, you have to use these methods that you learn from karate in your teachings, or from your teachings, in real life. And honestly, I really felt bad for Johnny, man. And honestly, like, I wasn't sure where they were going to go with the, the end of this episode, where they basically reveal that Carmen, went to the emergency room and stuff like that. And I didn't know where they're going to go with that. I don't know if they're going to kill her off or anything of that nature, but I'm glad they didn't. And she basically was fine. It's just, it was just some minor issues. But at the end of the day, they had the baby, they had like a pseudo marriage and stuff like that. Like, I'm glad they had like a good conclusion at the end of this season. And then you have stuff like the Sam and Axel storyline opening up, or like the love triangle essentially. And I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I don't like Axel. I understand like why people may have like sympathy for his character and his situation. I don't think the abuse of a student is good, and I think it's interesting that they're like tackling that sort of issue, but it's about the execution. And I feel like at the end of the day, there's a lot of issues with him, attacking Miguel, for example, because Miguel never actually did anything to him. Like, he's really only attacking Miguel because he can't be with Sam. And I already made a video kind of explaining my thoughts on the love triangle in general, but to sum it up, really, I feel like some of the stuff that Axel does would not be acceptable if Robbie were to do it, for example. If he was doing that towards Miguel, people ridiculed Robbie throughout seasons 1, 2, even like 3 and 4, where people started to actually like feel some sympathy for him. And even I did. Like, I was ridiculing Robbie in seasons 1 and 2, but then I started to feel some sympathy for him because I saw how much he was going through. But even though Robbie was going through a lot, nobody really gave him any sort of excuses, besides people on freaking Reddit. But like, other than that, like, the normal average person who watches the show, they're not super excusing every single thing he does and act as if he's a freaking angel. I think that's how we need to tackle this. At the end of the day, he is a victim because of what his sensei is doing to him, but Miguel does not deserve all of the ridicule and all the beatings that Axel bestows upon him, essentially. Also, when I was going over the video about the love triangle, I did kind of mention the fact that, low-key, I feel like even though he does have the abuse storyline, it's kind of pushed to the side in order for the love triangle to flourish. And I feel like that's an issue overall, because I feel like the abuse storyline is more interesting. And I feel like if Sam actually alerted to other people, like maybe Daniel or Miguel himself, Miguel would actually be able to understand more so why he's doing all this, but she never gave him any context. Or maybe she did, but like, I don't know, like, it doesn't really seem like, because we never get a scene of her actually like going over everything. I feel like that scene where she actually goes over everything with Daniel, for example, would have been very interesting, because we actually get to see it connect to like all the wolf stuff with Johnny, because Johnny's literally the main character. So like, honestly, all of that being tied together would have been so interesting, but we just never got to see any of that because they kind of kept it separate. It's almost like the Axel stuff is just for Axel, but it doesn't really connect like to the overarching like plot revolving around the Iron Dragons. It's just kind of like Axel's thing. The last thing in this episode is the Miguel stuff. Now, obviously, I'm on Miguel's side when it comes to Miguel and Robbie's like argument. I feel like overall, Miguel has some good points, and Robbie is slacking for like most of this half, like the second half of season 6, because I feel like fundamentally he's focused so much on Tori that it's just screwing up his entire mindset. But the problem is, it's like, they already had that argument where they hashed things out. And at the end of the day, she doesn't trust him. He is frustrated with her. Like, I feel like even Tori is locked in with her fights, or at least to some extent. I mean, she's kind of messing up a little bit, but it's not nearly to the same extent as Robbie. And Robbie didn't even tell the rest of the group when Tori had that conversation with him to begin with. It's like, I feel like Robbie isn't even doing all the steps, and he didn't even talk to her when he found out that her mother died. Like, Robbie isn't doing anything that he should be doing. So, like, low-key, yeah, I'm on Miguel's side, to be honest. I know it really sounds like I hate Robbie, but I really don't. He's actually my second favorite character, to be honest with you. And I know it sounds surprising given the fact that, I've been crucifying him in this review. But honestly, really looking back at the season overall, it's just, there's so many issues with his character. And it's not necessarily because of him fully. It's more so the writing and it's just how they're writing him. Because I don't think in other seasons he would be doing all the crap that he's doing in this season. But honestly, at least I like what Miguel is doing. Like, I like the fact that Miguel is carrying the team and, he's doing his part. And even though Robbie eventually starts locking in, I think it just happens a little bit too late in the season. And there was too many weird character choices that he made even before this part even started. Now, basically, the whole part with Johnny and Miguel going back to the valley is basically they're just on the plane for at least like most of the episode, and they're just annoying each other. Like, Johnny is just annoying the flight attendant, and Miguel is just not having it whatsoever. He moves to a different part of the plane just because he's annoyed, but then Johnny follows him, and he hits that one guy because he was annoying. And basically they just have a conversation about, just how stressful it is and how much they're worried about Carmen. And then they actually land, and they're worried at first because they see blood on the hospital bed. And Miguel's freaking out, and I think that's actually great acting from Xolo Meleduena, I think it is. I don't know, from Xolo specifically. And obviously she's okay, and I'm glad they didn't like do some like drama, some extra stuff where they kill her off just for like the sake of extra drama or anything of that nature. Like, I'm glad she's okay. And I think it's a wholesome scene where, like, honestly, some of the baby stuff where like Johnny's interacting with Carmen, and they're just planning the future and stuff like that. I think those are some of the greatest scenes in this season, because it just shows just how far Johnny has come in general as a character. And I really like scenes like that. Now, the next stuff in the episode is basically the stuff with Chosen, Daniel, and Kreese. Now, Kreese is just completely just brainwashing Quan at this point. Like, he thinks that Quan thinks he's like on top of the world. He's about to win the Sekai Sekai. He's one of the strongest kids who's like fighting there, and he has his psychotic sensei who's like on his side, who's encouraging him to do all this mischievous stuff, and he's going along with it because he's an idiot. And Kim's obviously arguing with him because she does not support any of this at all, and she's actually trying to support more a moderate style of doing things, to where they just they fight hard, and they don't try to get into any extra drama off the mat. And I think that's actually reasonable, and that's logical, honestly. I mean, Kreese is really trying to use these karate students as child soldiers, as if like this is an actual war they're fighting. Like, this man needs help, man. Obviously, everything he's doing is getting under Daniel's skin, and he's not having it. So he's like, all right, what do we do about it? And even Chosen's trying to chip in. Now, Chosen eventually ends up finding the kids at that bar or club place or whatever. He gets stopped by the bouncer, so obviously he can't, cut the line and everything. And then he finds out that Kim is there, so he's annoyed, and then they start arguing, and then the bouncer is about to kick them out. And, so they just go to try to find more of the kids. And obviously Kim gets stopped by the drunk dude. She gets annoyed because they're hitting on her, harassing her, and so she beats the hell out of him. And Chosen ends up helping because he's the GOAT. Then after that, they start arguing at the bar once they get back to it, and then they start making out. And honestly, I ship them. Now, eventually they get done during the nasty, and they have a coffee, break, and just kind of like talk for a little bit in the morning. And eventually, they're about to like head out. But then Chosen bumps into one of Terry Silver's goons, and well, then he notices the Cobra Kai tattoo. They follow him, and obviously they get Daniel because this is an emergency. And then the whole reveal happens where Kreese is also there, and there you have it. You have Terry Silver and some random asshole from Karate Kid 3 that nobody gives a damn about. Honestly, I do think it's kind of iconic how he's just smoking the cigar in the hot tub, just like he did in Karate Kid 3. Like, it does kind of, like, I do like when this show uses, like, nostalgia in, like, a funny way to kind of show just, like, that these characters sometimes just never change, honestly. And sometimes they do in cases where it's like Chosen or Johnny who's involved. But like, even with Daniel, sometimes like they'll flash back to the past, like, especially when he did like the crane kick against, Terry. Like, stuff like that is really cool because like, it just shows just like how much these characters have grown. Cause back then he wasn't able to take down Terry at all cause he was a student, like he was a kid, but now he's like all grown up and he's able to just use the crane kick against Terry. And funny enough, like he was even making fun of him, saying like, "Oh, use the crane kick, Danny boy," like stuff like that. And it's just like I just love callbacks like that. Now there is a plot line where Devin is confessing to Kenny finally after the incident, and Amanda's trying to get Anthony and Kenny to like squash their beef, but honestly it's like it's pretty self-explanatory. Like I already kind of went over my thoughts on this. I don't really feel like rehashing it. And there's also a plot line where Sam and Robbie are basically just talking about the fact that their significant others are elsewhere doing other crap. And, you know, obviously Robbie's, you know, very sad. And he's on the level of like wanting to drink, which is actually a lot worse for him than people would actually believe. Because this whole Tori situation is literally making him want to become like his dad and cope with his bad situation with drinking. And that's actually really bad because it's destructive and it ruined Johnny's life, or at least helped in the process. So the fact that Robbie is taking on that sort of character trait, or at least he is kind of hinting towards it, is not only telling, but it really just shows how like bad this situation is hurting him. And because Miguel's gone, Sam basically has Temptation, i.e. Axel, to talk to, and basically the whole episode is essentially a test to see if she's willing to fall for the temptation. There's a scene on the beach where essentially he shows, he takes his shirt off and he shows his, you know, bruises from when Wolf was attacking him, or assaulting him essentially, and she was worried, so she, you know, they had a little conversation about that. And then they walked off, you know, had a deeper look at like, you know, the city of Barcelona and stuff like that. And then they ran into Quan, and then he started, you know, shit with them. Honestly, I feel bad for Yoon, because Yoon's kick literally did absolutely nothing to Axel, and he just stood there like a brick wall, and then he just proceeded to beat the hell out of him. And he even like was standing up to Quan, and obviously Quan later on we already know how that fight's gonna go. So Axel and Sam end up running away, and they're like, phew, I guess we lost them. And then Axel ends up trying to kiss Sam. She rejects him gladly. She's learned from like other seasons. And then she gets away, and then he walks away as well. And it's just kind of a awkward situation. This episode also shows Dimitri also being a piece of crap once again, cheating on his girlfriend, which he does not deserve. He really doesn't deserve to even be in the Sekai Tekai to begin with. Yeah, just Dimitri might actually be the worst character on the show. And honestly, given the last couple episodes, I'm gonna say he's significantly worse than Devin, honestly. I wouldn't even put Devin quite there anymore, because at least she has sympathy for what she did, and her and Kenny actually have a decent relationship, like, in character moments afterwards. But with Dimitri, there's nothing. I just don't care. Like actually, and I'm not even just talking about in this season, he might actually be the worst character in the show, like, period. Zara's basically starting stuff with Tori the entire freaking episode, and it gets to the breaking point. So, you know, they have a little argument at the bar / club thing, and, you know, Tori's basically foreshadowing episode, what is it, like 13, I think, when she beats the hell out of Zara. It's kind of funny, because it's like, I kind of had a feeling that there was going to be foreshadowing, but I just, like, I wasn't sure. And, you know, gladly I was right. Now, Quan's basically just messing with Robbie, acting as if he's with Tori, or they have like a fling thing, something of that nature. And it kind of comes into question. It's like, if you guys are on break, why would you even think that to begin with? Unless he's assuming that, like, she's just, like, cheating. Because, like, they're technically still in a relationship. So it's like, I guess he's making that implication. But at the end of the day, like, to do what he did with Zara is, like, if he was in his right mind and he, like, purposely was drinking and he still was, like, aware of what was happening and he slept with Zara, then that's just, like, that's just another strike on Robbie. But I'm still questioning if he was in his right mind, and, you know, that could come into a completely different conversation, honestly, in terms of, like, what Zara did. And it's like, whatever. I really don't want to have that conversation again. I already made a video going over that. But, like, if he was in his right mind, I really just, this might actually be Robbie's worst season. Basically, episode 9 starts out with showing, you know, the backstory with Wolf and Terry, and basically just talking about the fact that, you know, like, Wolf is in a lot of legal trouble, and, you know, he's trying to get his dojo back. Obviously, he's in a lot of debt, and also he's trying to get ownership of the dojo back. But Terry can help him with that as long as he helps him, you know, destroy, you know, obviously the main characters, Miyagi-Do and stuff like that, Johnny and Daniel and, you know, the kids. And basically it's just like a evil business deal, essentially. And then it flashbacks to reality, present day, and Kreese is threatening Terry to get out of the pool or tub or whatever, and he literally gets up and just shows his pelican to everyone. And he gets up and just basically aura farming and just walks out of the room. Kreese is all pissed off and wants to kill him, but then Kim is like, "Bro, chill. We'll wait until the right time." And then basically they just, don't do it. And he gets away again. Then the next scene is them just, talking about the fact that Silver's back and just planning what they're going to do. And honestly, we have a really good moment between Johnny and Daniel where they finally kind of just come to a consensus that they should probably stop beefing after, the 57th, 100th, 1000th time at this point. Like, I'm glad they're at least, coming to a consensus and, understanding that this rivalry needs to stop so that they can actually get to more pressing matters like, Terry Silver trying to take over the valley in, the world. There is a little plot line where Hawk, Sam, and Dimitri are just contemplating if Kenny's actually a traitor or not, but I just don't care about this. I knew he wasn't. It's just ridiculous that they would even, add that. Dimitri, oh my god. It's just more examples of why he's the worst character on the freaking show! So the Sekai Tekai battles start up again, and basically everyone's fighting, Cobra Kai, Iron Dragons, and just everyone else, all the dojos that don't actually matter. And this is basically the episode where they start actually really building up Axel as this really overpowered, unstoppable character that in the future is going to be a huge problem. Actually, you could even say last episode they were also building this up because of the fight against Quan and Yoon, but this is another one that helps solidify that, and the next one literally just cements it completely. And I really like the scene after all the fighting with the different dojos where Miguel and Robbie just get to have a private conversation where Miguel finally apologizes for how he acted towards Robbie, which, I really appreciate. And I'm glad that he did because, it was needed because he was kind of an asshole. But honestly, I understand it given the fact that Robbie has not been locked in this entire, second part. And, eventually in this episode he will be, but, it just took entirely too long. But I'm glad that, their beef, their little, whatever that was, in last episode is finally resolved. And honestly, I like these two more when they're not beefing. Well, actually, I do like them when they're beefing sometimes because I think it's interesting, but honestly, it's very wholesome seeing these two actually, mend their relationship, their rivalry after all this time. So and it's just I think it's one of the best developed things in the entire show, honestly. And honestly, their rivalry more than Johnny and Daniel's. And honestly, Kreese is really a freaking idiot because he literally brought a knife where a bunch of kids were going to be just to kill Silver. And it's why would you do this here? Kreese is really stupid, honestly. And this ends up leading to Quan's inevitable demise because, we gotta have a cliffhanger, am I right? I also really like that we actually do get a scene where Tori is struggling, and the fact that Robbie was sleeping with Zara, that actually does affect her, and it shows that she cares about him just as much as he cares about her, and because they're being affected the same way. I did say earlier that them going on a break didn't affect her as much as it hurt him. But at the end of the day, because I wouldn't even say assumed, he did sleep with her. Because he slept with her, this is a little bit different and it's a higher level of betrayal in her eyes. So obviously, that's definitely going to affect her, and I think that makes logical sense. Kenny has a conversation with Silver, and it's I already know he's not a traitor. I don't care. They're not gonna make him a traitor in the last season. Come on now. And I'm glad that Robbie and Kenny actually do have that moment where he does tag in Kenny, and then Kenny puts in some work, and Dimitri and Hawk, end up teaming together as well. And it's it's a whole thing, but honestly, it starts to make me think, why have Robbie and Kenny not interacted for most of the season? Season 4, Kenny was introduced and, they were super close at first. And obviously, he screwed up that relationship in the end. And then in season 5, he was trying to mend it and try to bring Kenny back to the light. And obviously that relationship was broken. But then in season 6, he fixed it again, because like Kenny's back in Miyagi-Do. Not back, but he's in Miyagi-Do. But then they just never interact. We never see them do anything, like talk or anything. And it's like, that's sad, because like that was a really good relationship I like to see on screen. And honestly, it's kind of the same with, like, for example, Robbie and Daniel. We never actually see them interact with each other like in the season at all. Putting that to the side, though, I do really like the scene where we actually get to see all the kids like in the locker room, and it's a little bit different from the other scene in the other episode where Johnny's just like yelling at them, telling them like, "Oh, you gotta lock in, you gotta strike first, strike hard," and it's just like they're kind of doing their own thing. They're doing like what they are good at. Like, for example, Hawk is good at Cobra Kai, or, well, Eagle Fang, however you want to put it. Same thing with Miguel. He's kind of like a mixture. And, Sam and Robbie can actually focus on what they're good at, which is Miyagi-Do. And the scene not only shows how strong they are if they're together, but it also shows that Robbie genuinely can be a leader, and they can have a strong dynamic if they actually let him lead, essentially. And the senseis didn't even need to get involved. Now, the next scene is basically just, the rest of the Sekai Tekai, when it comes to the tag team battles. And these are obviously the main characters, like the Sam, Miguel, Tori, Robbie, and Quan. Tori basically reveals that Robbie's an idiot, and he assumed that Quan was sleeping with Tori when obviously he was messing with you the whole time. And it's like, if Tori was really messing with Quan, wouldn't she just like say it? Like, I don't know. I don't think she would really actually, I can't really say she wouldn't lie about it, because it's like she did keep the secret about her joining Cobra Kai. So it's like, I kind of get it, but like, Quan is obviously an asshole. Like, I don't know why you would take him seriously. And now finally Robbie actually locks in and he beats the hell out of Quan. Now, the way I perceive this fight is not necessarily based off skill. It's more so based off the fact that Quan is, very angry, and he's using his anger as a way to fuel him to fight more. But the thing is, that's actually what's holding him back. Quan isn't necessarily like significantly weaker than Robbie. It's more so the fact that, because obviously he was bodying him in the beginning of part 2, but the thing is, because Robbie's actually locked in, he is a lot more focused, and Miyagi-Do is actually very good against Cobra Kai. So I feel like it's more so like a counter. The thing is, Robbie just wasn't focused, but now that he is, it's like it's a little different. Now, after they just got done celebrating the fact that Quan got his royal ass whooping, Terry actually shows up and talks to Daniel and gives him a little paper of the records of the old Sekai Tekai that Miyagi actually fought in. This is when they actually reveal the fact that Miyagi did kill someone during the tournament, and yeah, it really sets off the whole chain reaction of him just wondering how this could be, and what this means for Miyagi. And obviously I was still worried at this given point when they were handling Miyagi's character, with him not actually being here. Obviously I didn't want them to assassinate his character, and again, like I said earlier, they didn't, in my personal opinion, so I'm fine with this. And I understand why Daniel would be worried about the fact that he did this, and I think it's a good scene, honestly. The next scene is just basically Croesus being a crash out again. It's like, oh, I have the knife and I'm gonna kill Silver. Yeah, whatever. Alright, next episode. Now, one of the first scenes in the freaking episode is, again, Axel being a freaking stalker, freaking loser, who obviously has some sort of axe to grind with Miguel because of freaking Sam. Again, it's always the same plot line. Sam's in the middle of some freaking love triangle, and it's a bunch of conflict. Characters have to fight to the death for her, and it's always something like this, man. And that's one of my main criticisms of the show, is the way they treat her character in the positions that they put her in like this. It's like, they gotta, I would say they gotta stop with it, but the show's over, so. And I swear, literally the next scene is just Quan again being a crash out and just snapping on not only Robbie but Tori, and then Kim, literally their sensei, has to step in just to stop him. It's ridiculous at this point. Kreese is just holding that knife waiting to kill Silver, and we already know who's actually gonna get killed, so. And the very next scene is basically just describing, what's going to happen with the tournament. And because one of the teams got disqualified because of 4 of the students having performance enhancing drugs, essentially Cobra Kai is back in, sadly. And, also, Robbie has to fight Axel, so yeah, that's, he's gonna die. One of the next scenes basically just Kreese again trying to brainwash Tori just like he brainwashed Quan, leading to what's going to happen later in this episode. And it's just like, it's really sad because Tori, still has a connection to not only Sam, Robbie, but like the other characters, in Miyagi-Do. But like Kreese understands that and he hates that about her. So he's trying to like remove that, like rip it out of her, like it's like he's trying to rip out her heart essentially. I also like the scene where Miguel is talking with Johnny and Daniel, and obviously they're beefing again after the 10,000th time. And he's trying to get them to, settle their differences after basically they're, arguing about the fact that their senseis are, a problem. And he's basically saying, suck it up, get over it, and let's lock in. Honestly, I'm on his side. I also like the training montage where they're going around Barcelona and they're like basically just, trying different, training exercises. And it's one of the most interesting, like, creative scenes only because you get to see like many different parts of Barcelona, like the locations, the shots are very beautiful. And, it actually looks like they're really trying hard. And they even have like a Rocky reference, which is really cool. Quan then fights Diego and makes easy work of him. He's just absolutely fodder, like just absolutely obliterates him and knocks him out, and then gains 27 more points for Cobra Kai. Again, any dojo that isn't the Iron Dragons, Cobra Kai, or Miyagi-Do are extras. The same thing goes for that Maria chick that was fighting Zara, just absolutely obliterated, can't do anything. Now, while that fight is happening, we get one of the most interesting conversations, in my opinion, in the entire series. Tori is talking to Kim, and she's basically establishing the fact that, even though Kim has made all these sacrifices, friends, family, stuff of that nature, having a normal life, and she's gained so much, not only strength, but skill, and has, gained, all these students, and has pushed them so hard to be the strongest and the best of the best. She really asked herself, like, is it worth it? That conversation is very interesting to me because it's one of the most important in the entire show, but people don't understand that. People probably just brush this off as Tori just not respecting, Kim for her, lessons and stuff like that, or just her as a person. But I feel like it's a lot deeper than that. This idea of being the best of the best is something that Kreese also shares, and he essentially views the world as like a war zone that, he has to fight in. And that's why he wants his students to be soldiers, to be ruthless, to be brutal, in order to fight in this world that's so just cruel to them. The problem is, if you win all the time and you become the best of the best, you have nothing to come home to. If you lose, it's even worse. You have absolutely nothing, and you fought for nothing. And that's kind of similar to what Johnny was going through in Karate Kid 1. His entire life literally just went down the drain in an instant. Lost the tournament, lost his girl, and his sensei tried to kill him. After that, I can understand if you never want to freaking pick up a karate gi ever again. Then the next fight is, sadly, Axel versus Robbie, and, well, we already know how this is going to turn out. Like, he really absolutely cooked him. And the thing is, it's like, I've never seen someone get, like, this humiliated, besides obviously Miguel in the next scene where he's getting, he's getting washed by Axel. Robbie can't do anything defensively or offensively. And of course, Quan has to be an asshole and he elbows Robbie in the side while he's freaking fighting Axel. Then that sets off a chain reaction where essentially Quan is about to fight Robbie, Axel's about to fight Miguel, and then the announcer guy gets punched in the face. He gets absolutely decked, and then everyone just ends up fighting in an all-out war. And when I say war, I'm not joking, man. Like, this is World War III for karate students. I'm not gonna lie to you. Even Chosen is getting his licks in. Daniel, on the other hand, is trying to stop everything, but obviously he doesn't have the power to do that at all. I really am mad at how he just made quick work of Miguel. He just absolutely obliterates him. Like, Axel is so overpowered. He's just destroying everybody, too. Like, he was just attacking random people for no reason. Even Kim and Chosen are teaming up just to defeat all these people. Like, my god. And everyone's just watching this unfold on TV back at home in the valley, and it's just like, man, this would be entertaining if I was watching this. I'm not gonna lie to you. I would wish I was there too. All I need is popcorn, a seat, and a drink. Honestly, this is like Netflix to me. Which is ironic, because this is on Netflix. Daniel's fighting the long-haired dude, and then, you know, Johnny's obviously fighting Wolf because of their beef over steak. And Daniel ends up helping him because, you know, literally he's getting obliterated once he defeats, obviously, the long-haired dude. They're 2v1ing him, he's still winning somehow, like, Jesus. And then Johnny gets knocked out, and then he sees Kreese, so he runs after him because, you know, of course. And of course, Kreese is going after Silver, actually, so they end up fighting. And then Silver gets really confident because he basically wins the interaction with Kreese, and, you know, Kreese is on the ground, but he's still willing to fight. He does not give a damn. I mean, Kreese is a warrior, really, or a soldier, I should say. Then Johnny inevitably steps in because, you know, even though Kreese is a piece of crap, Silver is even worse, so you gotta beat the hell out of him. Tori is struggling against Zara, so Robbie eventually has to step in. It must be like a Lawrence thing to just, like, step in between other people's fights. Even Sam chimes in, and it's Sam, Tori, and Robbie against, like, a bunch of just casuals. Robbie gets knocked to the ground because of, you guessed it, Kwon, Jae-sung, you know, just the infamous crash out. Then Sam tries to step in, and then Kwon one-shots her, and then Axel sees that, and then he stops beating the crap out of Miguel just to beat the crap out of Kwon. And it's like, why wasn't this Miguel's moment? Like, why? Oh my god, I already addressed this in my other video when I was talking about the love triangle between Axel, Miguel, and Sam, and it's like, again, refer back to that, because it's like, all I have to say is, I think the fundamental nature of why I don't like this is you're giving Axel a moment that Miguel should have, and it just takes away from Miguel's character, not only in this part, but in this season. And Kwon just can't do anything to this man, Axel. Like, this man's a demon. He's freaking Terminator, freaking Ivan Drago. And eventually, Kwon finds the knife that Kreese inevitably dropped, and yeah, the moment happens. Kwon lunges at Axel, tries to kick him, and then tries to stab him, and falls on the ground on his knife and dies. Well, Kreese's knife. This is probably one of the most shocking moments in the whole series. It's on the same level as, like, Miguel falling off the railing and stuff of that nature. And it's just like, it's crazy that the tournament after this was even, like, reinstated to begin with. Like, I feel like logically the tournament would just be over. There is no redo. Like, obviously they stop it in Barcelona, but, like, then they reinstate it in the Valley, and I just feel like logically that just wouldn't happen. Like, this is one of the most shocking moments of some of these people's lives. Like, they actually saw somebody die. Now, obviously, some people are going to make defenses like, well, back in the day, they had the Sekai Tekai, and, you know, Miyagi killed someone, so therefore it's okay that, you know, sometimes people make mistakes. But it's like, I feel like if people died back then during the tournament, you should just either make it a lot safer so that people, you know, don't die, or just not have the tournament after that. I honestly think having all those weapons so available to the public, even if you're just giving it to senseis, is really dangerous, to be honest. Like, you just have a bunch of, you know, like, sharp, just powerful weapons just available on Sekai Tekai grounds. It's like very similar to, like, if they had like a gun range or like a gun market or something of that nature, like in the Sekai Tekai, like, lounge or something. If that was the case, people would definitely call it out and not allow that on tournament grounds. And I really do think it sucks that Kwon inevitably dies, even though, like, he really didn't have to. Like, he was just a kid at the end of the day, and even though he did technically try to kill Axel, and he was very rage-filled, very resentful, very impulsive, like, he was just a kid, and Kreese was the one that put all these thoughts in his mind to begin with. Even though I think what he did was really stupid, and I think he's partially responsible, you know, at the end of the day, Kreese is a bastard, man. And the thing is, Kwon could have been saved because Chosen was saved. You know, he was a piece of shit back in the day, and he even tried to kill Daniel, and he tried to kill his girl. Kwon chose to listen to the wrong people, and it led him down a path of destruction. And that inevitably led to his demise. Sad.
No way, Jose. No way, Jose.
Red Hot Gotti, come subscribe, like, come subscribe, like, come subscribe, like, come subscribe.